Good evening, good night, and welcome to Mindful Live 363, I think. Really and truly, I can't remember now, you know. It just slipped my mind and I can't remember. But welcome nonetheless. I am your co-host, Nathan Springer. The host was just here, but she's currently, getting pampered. So she may or may not jump in at any time she so chooses. But nonetheless, once you are on the inside, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok if you're wondering how to hit the like button over there. That's how you double tap that screen 2 times. And you can hit it once and twice and 3 times and over and over and over again, allowing the algorithm to know continually that, hey, this live saying real thing, send the notification out to as many people as possible so that many people could hear it. So hit that like button. If you are viewing this on repeat over there on YouTube, I am streaming live on YouTube, but also the video is over there saved if ever you want to take in what was missed. Chevy boy, you have to mute that, bro. If you want to take in what was missed, you just head over to YouTube, Nathan Springer over there. Nathan Springer over there, and be sure to subscribe. You can catch all of those lives there on repeat. I have to leave. You are a Barcelona fan, sir. Such is life. Such is life. If you have to leave because I support the best football club in the world, then there's nothing I can do about that. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed if you're over there on YouTube, or head over to YouTube at some other time and make sure you subscribe to Nathan Springer over there. And thank you guys for joining in. It's Thursday. Good night, Zio Joey. It's Thursday, and on a Thursday, in case you don't know, what we do is we talk. Well, really and truly all nights we talk, but Thursday there's no direct topic. Usually I pull up some articles and that's the topic of the night. There's no direct topic on a Thursday. We're just talking about what the chat decides to talk about. What you want to discuss, what you bring up is what we talk about. Are there any questions or comments on the inside? And as per usual, you can join the live and speak. Can feel free to hit the invite button and join, and we'll have a conversation if you have something to say. So hit that like button. Property tax being repealed. Well, I don't know about repealed, but it's on hold. But I think, like, I don't know. Let me preface this with saying I don't know why it's on hold. I'll preface this by saying that I don't know why it's on hold. However, I was saying this since they began dealing with the property tax issue. If they do not get a large enough number of people to buy into the property tax, to be okay with paying their property tax, then the whole thing kind of falls flat, you know. If half of Trinidad and Tobago decides they're not paying that tax, they're not going to prosecute, fine, jail half the homeowners in Trinidad and Tobago. There's a kind of level that must be reached. If 99.99% of the homeowners pay the tax, go through the entire process, that 0.01%, that 0.01% that stays straggling on the outside, well, if it's only 2 of you, there's no problem then for prosecution. They will make an example if it's just 2 of you. But I don't think it's just 2 people. I think there are a large number of people in Trinidad and Tobago that are not going along with the property tax. And should they start effectively collect or trying to effect the collection of this tax, it's going to end up with some people paying the tax, a lot of people not paying it, so much people not paying it that you cannot actually prosecute them. That's a problem. And you see, when you understand laws and society, you understand that the laws, how a society is meant to function. It's not that the laws are meant to shape the behavior of the society, the nature of the society. Not really. The laws are meant to reinforce the morality that already exists in that society. So laws are not supposed to be difficult for the vast majority of the society to keep, because the laws that we implement in our country, that's why our government that is elected by our country and are supposed to be nationals of our country, that's why they are the ones supposed to be writing the laws, because the laws are supposed to be specific to us. They're supposed to work really well in our country. And the idea is you're supposed to write laws that go along in line with the norms and mores and values of the country. Now, the problem is, if you attempt to implement something that is outside of what the country, the society, the populace approves, you are going to have to oppress them into doing it, or be willing and okay with locking up half of the population. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I don't know if the pause on the tax is an election plan, that they're trying to, wait for things after election. I don't know. I wonder if it is that logistically, like what I was just saying, logistically they're seeing it as being too problematic, so it makes no sense trying to force it through now, because it will just show that they are unable to do what they're saying. I don't know. You see, it's to me, that's a lesson in parenting 101. If anyone wants some parenting advice out there, don't make rules that you aren't able to keep. If you know you can't actually keep the rule, then don't tell the child that it's a rule. If you know you won't enforce that rule, then don't make it a rule. Then you're only making a mockery of your rule-making business. If you make a rule every day and the child knows every day I can break this rule, then it makes no sense. But if any rule you make, if you make one rule per year, but every time you make that one rule, everyone under knows you are going to enforce that one rule, then it makes everything make sense. And I could wonder in this case if it's something like that the government doesn't want to go forward with something that they know they are not going to be able to enforce. Who is going to go out there and force people to pay money on their homes? Collecting money for people to live has been one of the catalysts for revolutions all around the world. This idea where I can't live without a burden around my neck is one of the things that gets people thinking about revolution real quick. And revolutions don't end, really and truly, very often revolutions don't end well for anybody involved. But very often revolutions don't end well for the leaders who were in leadership. People lose their heads. So, I mean, Mr. Imbert was gloating a couple of years back that the people didn't protest yet. Maybe he doesn't want to push that to see where it would reach. We are in a violent country. Bear in mind, Haiti is in our Caribbean vicinity, and currently there are gangs hunting political and state officials to murder them as they attempt to wrest control of the country for themselves. So, and then, sprinkle that in with the reality that apparently our secret spy agency was being run by a church out in the east. Add that to that. So I probably don't blame them for taking a pause on that property tax. I don't blame them. What's going on, Hotep?
I don't necessarily think. What's funny is that even though revolution doesn't benefit anybody, the people have no problem really revolting against something that they don't believe in. Any regime that they don't believe in. That's why I think, our government could try to play those games because we live in relative kind of comfort. You understand what I'm saying? If push comes to shove, Colin tells us, well, let them eat cake. Then you would see Colin Imber literally, sorry to say, he might be on somewhere.
Bro, here's the thing. Just as you're saying, and I've said this before. People with things to lose generally don't revolt. And Trinidadians are wealthy. Relatively. Many Trinidadians we don't talk and drag our country and drag our economy. But relative on a global scale, we are relatively wealthy. And that's why we don't end up in that kind of scenario. However, that comes with the understanding that you do not want to give these people that have something to lose, you do not want to remove what they have to lose. If you remove the wealth from the people, oh, they're speaking, I'm not seeing the request. I don't know. There's supposed to be a request right at the bottom there. If you remove the thing that the people have to lose, the wealth. Remember I said we are wealthy, that's why you don't see that. If you start removing and stripping the wealth away from people, eventually they get less and less to lose. In a country where AR-15 seem as accessible as sliced bread, are you sure you want a lot of people with nothing to lose? And not saying that the property tax is going to pauperize the entire country and make people and throw people out on the road. I'm not saying that by any means. But it is something that seems and feels like it's headed in that direction. It's not something that people feel like, oh, this is something that's going to improve our country. It's something people feel we're just going to be paying into this and we aren't going to see any real results from it. As I regularly say, for me, my problem with the property tax is the waste. I have no problem paying for people to see about my neighborhood that I benefit from. I have no problem doing that, by all means. Listen, if I could have hired a private maintenance company to upkeep my neighborhood, and the cost to hire that private maintenance company was the same price as my property tax, I would willingly pay it easily to maintain the entire neighborhood. And I think most people in the neighborhood would do that because they're sure that when I pay this 200, how much ever, it's going to these contractors who are actually going to do work on my neighborhood. The problem is, I don't have that faith in the government. I don't feel that my little small money from property tax is going to make its way back to me. I don't get that feeling. I get the feeling that they're going to use it much like they use all of government money to pay when the parliament is having food. They're paying $30 a mint. They're paying $600 a plate to their catering friends. That's where my little money is going to jump up. That's where my money is going to jump up. It's going to pay the SSA to hire a church full of people. It's going to pay the Salaries Reviews Commission $15,500 for the chairman, $8,000 something for the members to sit down for 10 years to write a report that has zero value and is sent back to them to write it over again. Every month you collecting $15,500 for doing nothing. My little money going to jump up in that. That's what I don't want. That's my problem with the tax. Not that I'm selfish. And this is the gaslighting that Dr. Rowley and those in the PNM like to put on the population. They talk about everyone who is against the tax is paying tax in another country. They're paying tax here, they're paying tax there. They don't want to help and uplift Trinidad. That's nothing to do with it. Well, at least for me. At least for me. And I feel like I've heard it from many people. It's not that they don't want to pay for their benefits. It's they don't trust that you are going to benefit them when they pay you. RL says the fact that you own and build your house and simply not pay your tax and your house could get seized after a few years. White Letter says as long as PNM Planning's paying their fair share, I don't have an issue with property tax. Well, you see, the issue with that, and this is why it will create a political talking point. If you're in a planning and your home is an apartment in Maloney, what is your property tax going to be? And if people see that group is the core group for the PNM and net tax receivers, they don't pay out, they receive. So the property tax is going to paint the buildings in Maloney while the residents in Maloney pay no tax. And I struggling to pay my mortgage, buying no luxury when the month comes, eating purely just basic. But you see me with my little small flats and wow, how to struggle and pay this. Now I am paying to mind the drug dealer who's selling out of his apartment. And if people think that the core group, the core support for the PNM comes from that group that is net takers, and they feel like they are from a group that doesn't support the PNM and they are net givers, you could understand again why people won't like this tax. Sia Chill says the everything happening all over the world excuse from the government is pathetic. Fire Flame says it's for me too. Yes, White Leather. If property tax gonna go to regional contractors, why does the tax have to go to central government in Port of Spain? I have asked this question before, White Leather, because here's a way you could have helped to convince me to pay more property taxes. If you created a system whereby the local government, my local constituency, my local government regional corporation is the collector of the tax. When I pay my property tax, it goes directly to the coffers of my local government corporation. Okay, then at least I know if my tax is being wasted. I know the councillors, I know where he living in it. He living right out the road there. That Harry's son. That George nephew. I know where he live in. If he think he going to take my tax money and buy a Range Rover and drive around the place, not in we neighborhood. So local, if the money went straight to the local coffers, that might be fine. But they aren't doing that. The money, according to the government, is going to the consolidated fund, the big piggy bank. And they're assuring us, they are assuring us that when those additional funds enter the consolidated fund, they promise they're going to give it to the local government. Here's some of the issue where that obviously is not true. If a pandemic pops up and the government needs money to keep their workers home and pay them, and it's an emergency, wouldn't they use the money from that fund? Of course they will. That's what they did over the pandemic years, and they spoke about that. They said they did that. But isn't that what's going to happen? Wouldn't the funds in the consolidated fund be taken based on what the government decides is priority? The national government? That doesn't make more sense to me. RL says property tax and town and country building codes is going to destroy the construction market, though I believe, well, we don't really keep those building codes. If they start to attempt to enforce those codes, it's going to go ridiculous. I tell people this. I don't know how many people are familiar with building in other places. Trinidad, by and large, the plans and intentions of most buildings in Trinidad are extremely overbuilt. Extremely overbuilt. You see what some people knock up in some first world countries, kids, compared to what Trini's, at least in the plans now, granted, Many people have J-bolts coming through their beams and it's holding on their roofs. And the J-bolt is not in any concrete or anything like that. We know that there's corruption in the build too. I mean, Trinidad is a corrupt country, what you expect. But I'm talking about the codes themselves. So if they start enforcing those codes, the price of building is going to probably quadruple. Jill says pay more tax for what benefit? We pay more. Will we get more? Of course not. Paul Duncan says, did you see the start on the construction sector news tonight? I didn't see it, but I know they were talking about the construction sector is seeing some difficulty. Fireflame says property tax and I still getting water for 12 hours every 3 weeks. Government mad, yes? The end says the whole system need to be reformed before we consider more taxes. Their solution is just pay more. It's true, RL says, I see a roof built with concrete blocks with no plastering already in cities. Yep. Vibesy says, yes, they said they did, but if you hold a census, the money was not distributed to the populace, of course. Yeah. Our building codes are very serious, and if we attempt to keep them, good luck building within budget. Good luck building within budget. And to me, I see building codes similar to car inspections. You have to know where your country is at. You have to know where your country is at. If people don't have enough money to even afford to knock up 4 walls to live, you're going to insist that they must build Fort Knox if they have to build? Like, if you have a country where people are struggling to get a vehicle in the first place, you're going to tell them that if they get a vehicle, it must be the most prime condition vehicle no older than 5 years? That's not for your country.
To drive on roads that are not roadworthy.
It's not for your country. And I actually don't believe that the issue, when the reason this inspection business came up, part of the reason, some people were sure it's old cars and bad cars and faulty vehicles on the road causing accidents. I personally believe that's not the cause of accidents. In Trinidad and Tobago, if you look at the accidents, when they happen, what time they happen, where they happen, who they happen with, you don't get the impression that it's a bunch of bolts falling out and oh no, an old car gave some kind of little wiggle and niggle and that's what caused this accident. Not exactly. Those men with the old cars that they know they have to turn a screw here and hold up their door here, they know how to drive for that car. They aren't the ones speeding 160 wrapping around poles. I wonder, if you take a ratio of how many vehicles in accidents are inspected versus uninspected, what would be the conclusion you arrive at? And if the reality is, if the cases, we were talking about this at the beginning in a hotel, if the reality is that this inspection business does not make the road safer, should we even keep it? Why are we doing it? Like, what's the purpose? But Vibesy says, but the government knows. But why are using smoke and mirrors to distract us? Vibesy, facts, but they are taxing you regardless. What does that tell you? It tells me that the human nature is greedy. And when people find themselves on top, they generally take advantage of that position. Most people are like that, you know. The vast majority. Yeah, Hotep.
What's truly funny is, sometimes it's kind of tickle because they think they're so smart. If we take a look at just general history of countries or polities to that matter, and when where the populace kind of sees that they are not progressing, the populace is going to pull some rank. That's just how it goes, right? Like the whole Boston Tea Party thing, the whole point of American Revolution was the fact of, listen, boy, why are we getting taxed exorbitantly for people that not even where we live? You know, tax dollars aren't even going to the populace, it's going back to the crown. And you know, the American Revolution pop, that's just how it goes. So for governments to think that all of a sudden people of our countries are going to sit down and be tax absorbed and just going to be like, all right, we understand. No, I don't really see that going.
I can't remember the name, but there's I think he was an economist who did this study where there's a limit. There's a limit on how much you could even tax. As you raise the taxes, people do things to hide the money. Like, at least in the US, for a large part in the US, when you're talking taxes, a lot of taxes can be avoided by spending your money. People who don't make money don't understand this. But many taxes could be avoided by either one, leaving your profit inside, or two, spending it. And to some extent, like at least in the US, when they raise taxes, their intention is to, you know, influence businesses into spending more money and heating up the economy, as it would. They don't need to actually collect taxes because they print money anyhow. They don't need your money for taxes over there in the US. However, here in Trinidad and Tobago, if you start to tax people more and more, and I've said this about laws in general, if you implement laws that go against human nature, you're not going to change human nature. You're going to make humans into lawbreakers. If you make a law that tells me I can no longer breathe oxygen, I am not going to stop breathing oxygen and die or find another way to breathe. I am going to hide and breathe the oxygen, or if I can't hide, I'll do it openly and let the chips fall as they may. You don't just swing things around and change behavior like that. So it's like the KFC issue. When people are boycotting KFC, you're angry with the wrong people. I was saying this when they started talking about it. I was saying, listen, if you are telling me all these businessmen are greedy, they're so greedy, they want all the money for themselves, and you tell me you're going to force them to pay you more, do you think the businessman that is so greedy and wants all the money for himself is just going to take that loss? You're upset. You want to boycott KFC, they raise prices. But you were cheering when the minimum wage went up. One leads to the other without fail. Without fail. So, you got to balance that. You got to balance that. Sherlan Glauden says you work, they tax, you pay, you buy materials, they tax that. You use the materials to build a home, they tax that. Yep. They tax. The $1 is taxed over and over and over and over and over again. And you get the feeling, and this is the silly thing in countries that go down this taxi this tax heavy redistribution kind of direction. You get the feeling like in Trinidad and Tobago, it would be better if I just put myself into neutral, let the government pay me in a government work, get some government housing, eke through the living with the government just doing everything for me, and I'll be a net weight on the coffers too. Why am I going to go out there and work harder when the harder I work, it feels like the more they gun at me? Or it's going to feel like, well, if I want to work hard and keep what I earn, let me go to a country that allows me to do that. And then you're surprised that so many of our entrepreneurial-minded people leave. Well, obviously, eating a two-piece right now. Boycotting wrong things. Like, for me, if you find KFC prices too much, don't buy it. And I'm not against that by all means. More power to you. You should have been doing that all along. But to try to get me behind a boycott that is because of the natural reaction to government policy, I'm sorry, I'm not on it. The thing is, I don't buy KFC that often, to be very honest with you. But I am not going to never buy KFC again for that. No, I'm sorry, I just don't support it. I don't see the purpose of it like that. If you're telling me let's boycott the government because of the minimum wage, well, now you're talking. If you're telling me we need to have more national discussion to allow people to understand minimum wage, and when these leftists, let me don't use any other adjectives there, when these leftists like those over in the movement for social justice, MSG, and those unionists talk about $25, $30, $35 minimum wage, we understand that they are talking rubbish. And that's not going to help anyone. We are just going to end up paying 3 times the price for KFC. Any further questions or comments on the inside? If you understand economics and you have no attachment to savings, you can make it here. Blessed night, Joe. How things? How things, bro? And the thing is, you know, many of those large companies like the Prestige, etc., they don't mind the minimum wage, you know, because they could buffer that. For one, they don't need to raise their prices one time. As they said, they didn't raise their prices one time. They carried it through the carnival season, raking up that carnival paper, building their brand identity even further, like if it needs any more. If I'm a small business though, I have one little hut, and I'm trying the same thing, I can't afford to stand the bounce like those bigger businesses. So that minimum wage shock is enough of a shock to put me out of business. And that's why many of the times you look in some of those countries and states, etc., and you see Walmart is lobbying for minimum wage, and you're like, but why would they do that? Well, they understand they are going to put their smaller mom and pop stores out of business. Sounds like a skill issue. No, it's not a skill issue, it's a scale issue. Scale. The scale at which KFC sells, they are able to withstand certain things that someone who only sells 10 per day cannot. Someone who sells 10 million per day could withstand certain shocks better than someone who only sells 10. It's not about skill, it's about scale. And many of the larger businesses know this very well. That's why they lobby governments to do some of these things, because they understand it's going to hurt the smaller businesses more. I could take that. That isn't going to affect my bottom line. I think the problem is that KFC has a lot of outlets and stores and is making a lot of money. Well, of course they are.
No, but the thing is is funny is this is just an appeal to cronyism. Like, it's such an appeal to cronyism. It's crazy. And when you tell the regular people that minimum wage is not going to solve the issues, they don't want to listen to that, right? Like, big businesses like Prestige Holdings would love competitors to go out of business so they can monopolize the market. That's just how it goes. And when we keep telling people that our monopoly is not good for the economy, they want to talk about, well, they had to pay workers still though. That don't make any sense, man. Paying a regular man who wants fries $30 an hour isn't going to solve the issue. increase your cost.
White leather, what is underpaying? How much is frying fries worth? What is underpaying? So you say the mom and pop store underpaying, so get out of business. So they get out of business and all remains is KFC. And the minimum wage go up because yeah, the government give you more money and you're happy mom and pops out of business because them don't know how to run business, you know. Them want to underpay people. You see them business people, them too wicked out there, you know. I hear the block talk over and over. If you know that talk is aggravate me because I've seen the people that say it and they lazy. They ain't doing nothing. They sit on hold, they scratching and only watch them only want to take advantage of people, you know. But not me as a man, I don't take that advantage thing out there, you know. I don't take that advantage thing out there, you know, boy. Them meant to advantage us out there. Watch them only want to drive the range and thing, and work hard. If you think that the mom and pop store is underpaying you for fries, for frying fries like it's such a big skill, go buy fries, buy oil, buy a firecracker, buy a little tent and start to sell fries on your own and make how much you are supposed to make with your grand skill of fries selling. How much is underpaying? You are paid what people are willing to pay for the thing. If you are producing something that no one is willing to pay for, then the money you are supposed to make is zero. And this idea now that, well, if they're underpaying, let them get out of business. Like if there's some other business that's going to pay you more. When all the mom and pop stores get out of business, you see, you may have had the ability to actually get equity in that shop and grow with the mom and pop shop. But no. They get out of business because they don't know how to run business. They only want to underpay people. Okay, minimum wage raise, and they can't continue anymore. Mom and pop decide to sell out their business. They sell it to a Chinese grocery and they move out and go to Canada to retire and maybe try and open a business there. Take their entrepreneurial mind somewhere else than this cursed place. And you leave this hole here. Okay, you who were frying fries there. Where do you go now? Where's the new job that isn't underpaying? Where do you get that job? KFC. Minimum wage that is raising with the prices. Yeah, Hotep.
That's the funny thing. Why people not understanding this, man? Raising minimum wage will never settle the score with cost of living. Because, okay, you put your local business of business, you bankrupt them, raising cost of living. All the big companies are going to do is say, okay, to offset this big minimum wage increase, you know what I'm going to do? Raise my products and services. So now the cost of living goes sky high while you work for your minimum. It's still, bro. So when you walk inside with your $50 an hour, and you say, "Oh my God, yes, look, I'm working for $50 an hour." When you walk out to buy bread, why the bread is $30 a bag?
Bro, Hotep, you have no idea. This kind of thinking, white leather, that you're just being the devil's advocate and putting it out there, but that kind of thinking aggravates me so much. To me, this is like people begging for slavery. And as someone who is attempting to do entrepreneurial things and beating the free market day in, day out there, to hear people say things like this, man, that kind of aggravates me. That aggravates me. You're begging to be put into a subservient company man role. You want to go back to the colonial days where you don't deserve more from mom and pop. You're saying they need to work harder. If you decide to work for them, that's the price they pay you. You don't have to work for that price. We're not talking about you deciding to work for mom and pop or not. We're talking about the government forcing mom and pop to pay you more. let's not stray wide leather saying that mom and pop work harder and some companies can't afford employees. If the only reason they can't afford employees is because the state makes it that way, it's not that they actually can't afford employees, it's that the government is. That's not the same thing. And if you like that system where the government decides that, okay, Massey and Samakal, Prestige, y'all can employ people. Corner Grocery, Individual Mini Mart, Mom and Sons, Raj and Sons, John and Brothers, Jay and... No. Y'all are too small. Y'all small individuals, shut down. And the thing is, this kind of P&M mentality too, that kind of thing, you end up in the long run in a country where the 1% controls everything and you're out there as the 99% always only for your labor. There's a market for your... Rawson Warren says no one should be working 40 hours a week and still living in poverty. Why? Where's that a rule? Where's that written? Show me the cloud that the earth came with this as a rule on the earth. Where is that written? If you were born in Equatorial Guinea, what?
Does he know before Henry Ford came up with the 40-hour week that people was working 12 plus hours in poverty? Like, they were working 12, like, the 40-hour was in order to see how to see how productivity could operate within a week's basis, and it works pretty well in terms of that because nobody wants to work nowhere. And so the thing about this is that's just it.
When have you heard Employers Association and business chambers crying, and what have they cried about, White Leather? Go ahead, Trini.
Yeah, so the thing about it is if you are still in poverty, then there's factors to that. Either you ain't had enough, you ain't putting in that much value, or your government is just operating on heavy cronyism where the point that it can't even do about it. So which one are you reckoning about is the problem for me, because here's the thing is your government and big companies really care about the small man because they don't have to. You all don't apply pressure to them. So I would beg for $50 an hour, sell, dashing some flour on some chicken breast and saying that's supposed to be my job for life. That's also a problem too, because as much as the government kind of decreases the value of certain jobs, we decrease the value of certain jobs. I don't get why you all think you're supposed to be 32 still on fries at McDonald's, thinking that you're supposed to build family wealth on that. That's just crazy, bro. Like, let it go. I'm not saying that everybody should be a lawyer, but let it go, man.
Bro, it's about worth. It's about worth. And you have to increase the amount of worth you put out there. If you find the company that's employing you doesn't see your worth, leave. And here's the thing. The things that make it difficult for you to leave and receive value for your worth are almost always government involvement. Listen, if it's a free market and mom and pops don't want to pay you what you know you are worth, you leave and go and find your worth where it's given. But the thing is, very often, people overvalue their worth. They think they're worth more than they are. They think because they are employed in a company and they look how much the company makes at the end, they should be getting that too. Well, go do it. Go do it. Stop being envious. Stop being jealous. Work hard. Go do it. And as you do that, what you would recognize, you'd start to see why so many people who attempt to hate the government involvement so much. You're going to start to see, as I work hard, these louses and leeches are just sucking from me and pulling me back. The reason, and Rawson says, and I agree with that 100%, the reason why a lot of people stay, there isn't much opportunity. Well, if there isn't much opportunity, then there isn't much value. Yeah. Here's the thing. If I am a pork farmer in Saudi Arabia, and I work on the one pork farm in Saudi Arabia that sells pork to the American base. They only sell a limited amount of pork, so they pay me a limited amount of money. I find it's not enough. I say I should leave. Okay, I go looking for the other pork farmers. There are none because the demand is not that high. Then the reality is pork farming is just not worth that much. That's not necessarily anybody's fault. That's not the responsibility of the government to come in now and artificially prop up pork farming and give you force the employer to give you more money. No. It's supposed to die. If it isn't worth it, then it's supposed to die. Go do what is worth it. That's the signal of the market that what you're doing isn't worth it. That's what you want. You don't want a government paying people for doing worthless things. That's what we have when the state is out here paying a million people salaries out here. A bunch of people being paid for worthless things, ballooning the economy, artificially inflating our money so that the actual hard workers out there have to work doubly hard for half the money. Because there are some people working none at all for some. And we would watch mom and pops and say, you have to pay more taxes and pay the man more money. That's where the money is supposed to come from. Come on, man. Come on. Let's think about it a bit. Yeah, Hotep.
Yeah, and this is the thing, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. When those McDonald's workers in America was trying to fight for the $15 an hour, and I laugh at the ex who say, well, all the people who say, well, why must a McDonald's worker get 50? Why he must work for the same amount of me and I have a degree, yada yada yada. And people talk about, well, you deserve to also protest for your increase. And I'm like, wait. So you want the McDonald's worker to get an increase, and also the executive inside of McDonald's to get an increase. So wait. You don't think this will go all the way to the top, to the point of now that when the McDonald's worker work outside is $15 an hour. And he goes now to buy some goods. He realized, wait. Again, wait. Why this costs that much? See, the thing for me is this. People love the government to be balancers. And government is not a good balancer of anything.
Oh, yeah.
That's just not how it goes. Let the people balance it themselves. People have proved that when they do their own thing, they balance it well.
People are much better at balancing than the government. And what the free market does is it atomizes those decisions. So it's like you have a billion microcomputers doing microcalculations on which are the best decisions to make in the market. Instead of one, even if you are a genius economist, you are one economist attempting to make decisions for an entire economy that you are not privy to the knowledge of. Tanti, who is... they demand inflation, but that's not directly what they demand. Those who demand the minimum wage, here's how that often goes. They demand minimum wage goes up. Obviously, KFC and the other prices follow suit. Then they say these businesses are too wicked and evil. It's happening in Canada right now. What we need to do is price control. Force the businesses to have to keep the prices low while paying more. All right, that sounds like, well, this is how it's going to be done. Well, these businessmen have money. If they have enough, they shut down and fly out the country. Forget that. That kind of communist business, you going down, we done. I know a Venezuelan guy that works, that does some work for us. He's legal. Don't jump in the... He's not here anymore anyway, but that's another story. And he was telling me about the business that he was privy to in Venezuela. Venezuela, as we know, is socialist. So they have price controls in the groceries. The groceries get the stocks, and the groceries must sell it at certain prices because the government is socialist. Price controls are enacted. So here's what the grocery does. The grocery gets their stocks, puts a very limited amount out on the shelf, sells it back to the hawkers on the street for US dollars. The hawkers on the street go through the community selling it for extremely exorbitant prices, because when the residents go into the grocery, they see one toilet paper for the price controlled price, because the grocery sold out all of their stock to private sellers. And that's what happens. It's like you're telling me these businessmen are greedy and are going to do anything to get money, but somehow you're supposed to convince me that these laws you write are going to make these men pay me more of their money. Like, it does not make sense. The price control side isn't going to work either, because we don't have that decision-making power. No economist has that amount of knowledge to know what is the proper price to set tomatoes, what is the proper price to set aloo. They don't have that knowledge. The best way to get that knowledge is each individual computer, each human going around deciding, well, this is too expensive, this is too little bit, knowing how much is coming. That's the best way. That's the free market way. Theon says we need less government, and even less government if they're corrupt. Fact, Theon. Fact. Bro, you and I could get along.
It's funny why I believe, in my opinion, that in the ancient world, bartering being an ultimate form of free market behavior is that the people used to value what they value, and you can't stop the people from valuing what they value. So if people used to value cattle, and the man who have 15,000 cattle is the richest man in town, and he gets to barter his cattle, and the people say that they value cattle, so he gets to make a bunch of money on cattle, then that's the market, bro. If nobody values his cattle is going to stay right there, die, and he makes no money off his cattle. That's just how it is. No, bringing a government and say, okay, you have to sell this cattle, and you have to sell it at this price, or else no, the man with his cattle is just going to get up with his cattle and move to somewhere else that obviously want the cattle at whatever price the banks to put it at. You see, the problem is, and the problem with Canada is that that's the thing that Canada is facing. Canada is facing the fact that big companies that employ a lot of people, like Walmart, to leave and get up. And Canadian people are saying, oh, no, Justin Trudeau, no, don't mess with my jobs. See, my work that I have to bills, I need it. Stop telling these people the price control. And that's the point, right? So the governments put their foot in their mouth all the time by trying to minimum wages thing, and then when that don't get the company price control, businesses are going to leave. Yep. It's going to just mess up your economy. What's going to happen? You're going to have a literal place of destitution. It's like, what is going on? Venezuela
has price controls, and look at it. Ross Warren says, so then what do you suggest could be done? We just leave it as a free for all, everybody do as they... Here's the thing. I regularly say this, the idea that something must be done. Why? Who says something must be done? This idea that we want the government to do, what do you want the government to do? Like, what role do you want the state to play? For me, the role I want the state to play is to organize the wider array of things that are more difficult for individuals to organize. So countrywide infrastructure is more difficult for individuals to organize. If you're talking military, well, you don't really want an individual to organize that. Law enforcement, all right, you understand. understand that. Have some control and order of the courts. Okay, yes. But I don't need you to decide how much my labor is worth. I don't need you to decide. Ronnie makes cakes. Ronnie, do you need the government to tell you how much to sell your cake for? No, you don't. When you buy your flour or your egg and your sugar and your icing sugar and your whatever else goes into cake, essence and all that good stuff, you put it all together, you check the price, maybe according to what your system is, you probably put a 20, 30, well, you're a Trini business person, so probably like a 200% markup on that. And you know your profit and you sell it like that. Now, you sell your cake at that price, maybe someone finds that's too expensive and none of your cakes sell. Well, now you know that's too expensive. So what do? You say that 200% markup was a little too much. So maybe you drop your markup a little bit. Do you need the government anywhere in that decision? The government is only going to complicate that decision more and make it more difficult.
Just to talk about the person who say, sorry, good night, my bad. I finally decided I'm gonna come on. Person who say, so just leave it for a free for all. Yes, leave it a free for all. And if you can't, if you choose not to support it, then don't. You understand? KFC can raise $100. It will have people who still buy KFC. And it will have people who didn't.
Good night, Asa.
I can't, and again, the movement I want to raise the price, they're going to drop the price, they're going to fire the staff, they're going to downsize, they will look for new suppliers, they will handle the business. You shouldn't force the government or even calls for boycott and things. I don't really agree with calling for boycott or pressuring other people to boycott places just because you feel like it's over. You don't do it.
And that's the idea of the free market. It's up to me. Ask what you guys think about crypto. I think it's interesting technology. I think it's useful technology. We're using it. I think it's not a silver bullet. It's not magic. I think many of the people who are trying to get rich quick schemes on it, they're not on. I hope that the people who are doing it are understanding that you're not getting rich by creating a resource here. When you get rich quick off of crypto schemes, you aren't going out there and digging in the ground and extracting more gold or extracting more oil. Where that money is coming from is other people. It's like those MLM, multi-level marketing schemes, pyramid schemes. When you make money, you are making that money off of someone else paying in, and you are taking their money. So understand that with the crypto get rich quick schemes, but the technology of what they call crypto is mostly blockchain, and that's wonderful technology. It's very interesting technology. I can't wait to see all the implications of blockchain. I think it can actually, there may, according to which government wants to, but it may be feasible for crypto. It may be feasible for crypto to replace money at some point in time, or something with the effect of crypto, because the idea of crypto is it's a undeletable, unchangeable register. You can keep a record of things that cannot be deleted after they are recorded. And really and truly what money is, as Trini Hotep was referring to earlier, with the bartering system being the real raw free market system, money is a filter on top of the bartering system. So we're bartering, but we're using money as an IOU, as a stopgap measure for our barter. If we don't need that paper, but we can keep a record of all of the things we're bartering online through the blockchain, basically, it's like, okay, I have 1,000 goat, 3 sheep, 50 chicken, and how much ever. I know you want 3 chickens from me, all right, I log that in. Even if you don't get the chicken set, that's already logged in as yours. And that's kind of what money does. Money, in a sense, strips off all of your value, puts a number to it, and represents it so you can switch it around each other. If you could do that without the physical money, then you can replace money. The problem with that is who controls it. The idea with crypto is that it can basically run on its own. So if there's some kind of money, that's where this Bitcoin comes in. If there's something that there's no central controller, it becomes very tempting. That's kind of what Bitcoin does. It keeps a register of all the transactions and there's no central controller. However, many of the central banks are getting smart to this and they are saying, listen. We don't want that crypto money thing going on without us having control. You see, central banks having control of money gives central governments a lot of control of the people. If you could do as you will with your money without the government ever knowing what you do with it, then the control the government has over you decreases dramatically. If the government can decide that all of your money is going to be worth nothing in 2 months unless you come and show it to me and I give you back a new one, like we did in Trinidad and Tobago. Like, understand the gravity of what we did in Trinidad and Tobago then. All of your money. This is your worth. I am telling you, it's all going to be worth nothing unless you bring it all to me. Allow me to count it. See how much you have. If I find how much you have is the right amount, I will give you back. I will give you it back. If I find it's not the right amount, hard luck. Like, understand the gravity of something like that. Now, the reality is if we used gold coins, they couldn't do that. The only way they could do that is when you use that fiat money that is under total control by the central bank. If we were using gold coins, they couldn't do that because gold is transferable. Gold from Timbuktu is the same, well, not the same, but it's same chemical makeup as gold from Guyana. So, what's your take on string theory vibration code? I would have to go and read up on that to know exactly what you're talking about. Let me... You're testing me here. Would it be strange if I actually know what you're talking about? String theory refers to the idea that basically all matter is, what was the name of the string, is made up of basically strings that could tie up on each other. Anyway, we're talking economics, but interesting. I don't know what you're asking there in terms of my take on it. I don't know what my take on it is going to be like that. I don't know. Like, it's a theory. It's interesting, I guess. Gold does not decrease in value unlike fiat currency. Well, gold could decrease in value, eh? Potentially gold could decrease in value. But the decrease and increase, greetings, the antediluvium. If it increases or decreases in value, it's based on real world situations. Someone went out there and dug up a whole set of gold and glutted the market or something like that. Someone who was storing gold, who was holding on to it, decided to sell it. Something like that. Quantum superposition and AI teleportation concept is the new news. There's always new news, I guess. Yes, so you are smart man. I wanted to know your opinion. This would change the world forever. But many of those theories in physics, when it reaches to that level, you have to understand a lot of them are theories. A lot of them are things that you can't really experience in the real world. There are mathematical formulas that people are attempting to intuit and figure out, like more than one dimension, more than 3 dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth, sixth, seventh. Someone was talking about 10 dimensions and explaining that and trying to. These are mathematical problems, really and truly. It's like people who could see in numbers. That's what they're talking about. If anyone is really curious, ask your brother what he thinks. Needs someone to work the maths. Bear in mind, well, he is trained in engineering, but bear in mind, he teaches CXC mathematics. And he has been teaching that for the better part of what? More than a decade. So I'm not sure how up to date he is on literal rocket science mathematics. I'm not sure. Supply and demand can cause its costs to go up or down, yes. The guys from the 1800s who came up with the theories. Right? At least some of those guys from the 1800s, their theories, you saw it in the real world. Oppenheimer and those guys, I mean, they blew up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the end of the day, the nuclear bomb worked. So those theories came to the real world. At least for them. That's why, like, guys like Elon Musk, I could rate him on that science level because he seems much more real world science oriented, not just the string theory and quantum, not just those theoretics, like real world stuff. Okay, what do we need to reach Mars? How do we colonize Mars? No, that's some real science. That's something that we could see in the world there. So, yeah, I know Albert did. B-Man says, I've been a physicist at Yale for 8 years. String theory is very possible. Has it even been proven yet? Because, I mean, I don't keep up to date on this stuff. My physics generally, I teach also. I teach CXC, and you don't generally keep up to date on the string theory for physics, for CXC physics. So, but as far as I know, the last time I dove into that black hole, get the pun? The last time I dove into that, as far as I knew, it was unproven, and as far as I know, I'm not sure it could be proven, at least with the technology that we have so far. And I remember I was looking at a discussion on science where they were talking about that, where the reality of some scientific discoveries had to wait until we had the machines in order to do it. So before we had telescopes, a lot of microscopy could not have been discovered. If you try to prove the theory in America, they want to kill you. I don't know about all of that. Whatever happened, if you're on the edge of science news, wasn't there a computer they said they successfully may have started the quantum computing with something that basically used very little energy. I remember they said they had done that somewhere in the East, and then the story just disappeared.
I don't believe.
And the reason, just the point, the reason that it was so important is if they were able to do it, basically what they were surmising is it's quantum computing, extremely fast computing, but without the heat problem to it, very little heat buildup. And if that's possible, well, I mean, if you could put self-learning AI onto a quantum computer, you might theorize that from the moment you press go, you're just going to end up with an infinitely smart resource there. Who knows where that would go? Oh, Trini Hotep, you're going to say something?
Nah, I don't really believe that, man. that's boning next. It's I would say a lot of theories. It's always funny, these type of theories that come out and people run with it. You know what I'm saying? Just like how, the theoretical scientists who say in 2055 the comet is gonna come and land on the earth and kaboosh, here goes the earth. I don't know, man. At this point is like, yikes. A professional scientist come and say anything and just...
Yeah, here now, bro. As I've heard some people say, like, if you're talking about world-ending stuff, like, that kind of doesn't bother me, innit? Like, I don't know if you ever see the people who post the kind of posts where they show you an asteroid coming, a picture of an asteroid coming to Earth, and you standing there watching the asteroid, and they were like, but if you're in this situation, what would you do? I mean, what are the options? like, if an asteroid indeed is coming in 2050 to wrap it all up, that is inconsequential to me. There's nothing I could do to change that one way or the other. Whatever. Like, when we say that theoretically, judging from the pull and move of the Earth, theoretically within 300 and something million years, we are all going to be sucked into the sun, and we'd all go boom with the sun eventually as it goes into supernova. So what? That doesn't bother me, inconsequential. Even if you told me that was happening last year, that's next year, that's nearly inconsequential. There's nothing I could do about it. Someone asked if I think I'm going to see the colonization of Mars in my lifetime, bro. Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like it is possible we may see humans on Mars in our lifetime. I feel like that might be possible. I think, though, that the distance between the two is going to make whatever happens, if anything does indeed happen, it's going to make it a whole different thing than what we're accustomed colonization being. It's not going to be Britain colonizing the New World again, really and truly. It's not going to be that. And as with everything, there are unintended consequences and results that would happen there. Who knows what interfering with Mars might cause? Next thing you send humans there, and the first human that's born there is born some kind of weird way. Next thing you send humans there, and after a year there, you recognize somebody else is your neighbor.
I don't get what people are trying to say. It's not about that. It's the point that the theories today carried by the people of today just reach a point of lunacy, and that's why even with and I'm a conspiracy theorist, but the thing about it is that the theories are the most mind-bending, numbing thing possible, and it's so unbelievable. And just because it comes out of a mouth of a man who has a degree and spent 30 years in the field, mean that all of a sudden his word is law. Am I supposed to appeal to authority on that one? No. But no. No. I just wanted to ask, what difference would it make if you know all of these great things, you know them, but what difference would it make? Everybody who's like so obsessed with science, you Trini Hota, obsessed with no. But you explain kind of knowledge is power. Yeah, knowledge is power. To what end? What power?
Well,
how much power? How much power you need?
Well, wait. Now you're going at there's nothing as too much power. If you're talking in... I mean, if you're talking in human terms, there's nothing as such. You go as far as you could go. And the knowledge is power, as was being said. The knowledge is power. Being able to know it is a powerful thing. So in his pursuit of Mars, Elon has sent up, I don't know the number, but an incredible amount of satellites as basically a net around the Earth. So in his pursuit of knowing how to get to Mars and figuring that whole thing out, it's creating technology that benefits the world too. The pursuit of knowledge is how I am able to sit here in a room and be myself talking to hundreds and thousands of people all around Trinidad and Tobago. That's someone wanted to know how something works and they figured it out. Like without curiosity, without trying to figure it out. This is basically like a stone I have in front of me transporting a signal on air invisibly across the country. That's somebody who was really curious found that out. Oh, Richie.
I get that, but I don't know. Probably for me, it's just like, and this is just for me. I am happy for curious minds. Probably one day we'll reach so far, but for me again, this is just me. I don't think enough much that we really actually don't know anymore.
Nah.
And it have more. Well, I mean, yeah, we still have like some things in the ocean and some things in some forests and we don't know anything about here. And space, yeah, but oh gosh,
you see, that's the thing. Humans, the evolution of humans is just an ever-growing thing, so we learn nearly every day.
And here's the thing with that too, you know. I think, Ronnie, every generation of people, there were people saying the same thing like you were saying. I think if we could have gone back in time to the early ages of civilization and people who just discovered fire and started cooking and they barbecuing some meat while they now figure out leather and they tanning some leather hides and making a little clothes and eating meat comfortably and living in wooden shacks as they finally get some tools and somebody's laying on a hammock ripping off a piece of meat. You know, I don't feel there's anything more to learn in this earth, you know. And the next guy in the hammock next to him, what more you need? We have food, we have shelter, and we living comfortable.
I think a lot of it comes from like the fact that I will really actually have no future. When I say that, like I have no nieces, no nephews, no children, right? So like for me, it's comfortable enough. Probably if I decide to have children, then I'll be like more concerned with how to prolong the earth and how to care and the things and explore.
Ronnie, you're seeing there one of the real problems with hiring childless people to lead countries and stuff, eh?
Yeah, I know that for sure.
You want people with that vested interest, people who want to see how things turn out. And I mean, to go back to how we reached there, to give Elon his credit, that's, Elon out there and that populating the world business.
Yeah. Elon was 7 trillion and the kind of competition.
He out there trying to repopulate. So men like that would be very interested to see how things go. But that's why I say I don't believe we are actually even close to knowing all that we need to know. I think the more we learn, the more we are going to recognize there's a greater amount that we don't know. It's like behind every door are 1,000 doors, and every door we open, it's a new 1,000 doors that we are experiencing. Science doesn't really give answers. It creates more questions. So you ask this question and you figure out 5 new questions to it, and you try to answer those 5 new questions and figure out 25 new questions to those, and it keeps going like that. Now the thing is, with each opening of the door, with each figuring out of a different layer of questions, okay, you gain some new information, you gain some advancement. So let's look at it in the microtechnology world. So with our plain eyes, we could see certain things. You could see down to insects and stuff, and you get a bit of knowledge on that. All right, as you get microscopes, you get to see even smaller. Wait, they are single cellular organisms. As you see single cellular organisms, you recognize, wait, I am a multicellular organism. I'm made up of a whole set of these tiny little things. Wow, that's incredible. I am cells, but then the cell isn't the smallest unit. You get better, stronger microscopes. You zoom into the cells and you see organelles inside of the cells. But what trouble is this? There are things inside of this thing that I'm made up of. How? Okay, we get even more powerful microscopes. We zoom in inside of one of those organelles. We see a little organelle inside of a cell called a nucleus, and that is holding our genetic code. Oh my goodness. Who knew we had a genetic code? Wait, it's in every single cell. And it's in this one thing in every single cell. But you know, you could even get smaller than that. Inside this genetic code, it is made up of deoxyribonucleic acid connected to different bases. And we could figure out, wait, there are different we could figure out the bases. So wait, I could select the sequence. So wait, I could edit the sequence. Oh my goodness, we are reaching places here. And then even on top of that, you could figure out what molecule makes up those bases. And then when you figure out what molecule makes up those bases, you recognize molecules aren't the smallest it gets. There are things that make up the molecules. Then there are the quarks. And then below the quarks, well, then you get into the theoretical side and people will see whether it's string or quantum. But with the knowledge, you keep going, and there's always more to figure out. You're just opening doors and spreading wider. And with each step, although there are more questions being now asked, you learn something new also. Reese said this how he does song when he's teaching. Yes, actually, it does. It is.
That's just it. I think that's just human nature. We try to understand the world that we live in, we label the thing, and then we figure out that there's more questions need to be answered. I don't think the human race will ever reach the point of an end street in terms of a knowledge base. I don't think that will ever be a thing. I think the grapple of it is that humans will forever be lacking of something. It's funny. I'm an anime guy. And Bleach being an anime that is a big anime out there. One of the races of in Bleach is called hollows, and they are hollows because they have a whole chest and it literally is missing a piece of themselves. So they have to eat every single day in order to satiate that thirst, right? So the thing about it here is, if we juxtapose that with humans, humans' thirst for understanding is just ever much present, and we would never reach an end point, because it will be, I mean, come on, we don't even understand how the phenomenon of making children is even there. Even if we could explain the process, do we know why humans even have the phenomenon? Like, you know what I'm saying? When we ask certain questions, we don't even understand the brain that fully.
Here now, you see what you're saying there? 100% fact, you know, Hotep. Do you know we don't know how planes fly? We know how to make them fly, but we do not understand the physics of how planes fly. There are varying theories. There are literally opposing theories, where some believe the wind moves faster below, some believe it moves faster on top. Varying theories as to why. Now we know how to make it fly. That doesn't mean we know why. It's like humans would have learned how to barbecue meat before learning why barbecuing meat makes it taste good or makes it healthy.
This is why.
What's that? Why what?
Why barbecue the system? Why barbecue?
Well, it has to do with a chemical reaction that happens at a certain temperature, causing the meat to basically change properties. That's why it tastes good. That's why it helps. It works pretty good because it's healthy for us. It kills bacteria, and generally speaking, taste is linked to something that is good for you. So so like sugar tastes good for humans because we need sugar. We need a lot of sugar. Now, here's the problem. because of the world we live in right now, we don't have a problem acquiring sugar. So it's not like we need the taste to tell us that we need more sugar. We have an excess of it. So we created some of those problems. But our body telling us that sugar tastes good is because sugar is good for us. We need sugar. Similarly with the barbecuing stuff, it tastes good because it kills the bacteria and it's a nutrient-rich food source. But many things are like that. The point is that we learn how to do things before we know why. And after we learn why, it adds a whole new dimension to things. ASAP says, isn't it once an object in a body of motion continues until another force acts on it, etc.? What are you talking about? Inertia? What does inertia have to do with any of the things there? You asked me earlier on, is it ASAP asked me about the theory of coincidence or something like that? That's Carl Jung and synchronicity and all of that, where basically nothing is really a coincidence. Everything, I kind of believe that. The idea is there are no coincidences. Everything is because of a series of minute actions all around that all work together for a purpose. That makes sense, actually. I believe that.
I can believe that.
We are living in a closed system. The universe, whether it's expanding, whether it's infinitely large, is basically a closed system. For example, if you understand how they say gravity works, we have a piece of cloth anyway here. How they say gravity works is you think of the entirety of matter all around us. Think of it as a surface. And think of it as a fabric. And a heavier object would indent this fabric. Like if you put a heavy ball on a trampoline, it will sink the trampoline. And anything near to it on the trampoline is going to fall in towards it. And that's kind of how they explain gravity, at least the theory. And the idea being, it's kind of all linked. And if it is all linked, like, there isn't really a difference between my skin and the air atmosphere around me. It's all linked, as it were, in one. It's all matter. So if it's all linked like that, nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, nothing is added, nothing is taken away, then it makes sense that everything that happens is, and that's kind of a scientific theory too. Everything is an action or a reaction. And after whichever was the first actions that happened, it's kind of all a chain of reactions happening as we see it happening now. So I could see that making sense. Totally. And yeah.
To some degree. Like, we would want to think that, some things are coincidence because because how I think how it works is that it's not a direct thing now. So since something doesn't directly happen to us, we think that it's a coincidence. Like meeting somebody that you never thought you would have met. You just bounce them up one day, right? But we haven't really, humans doesn't really think about the process in which gets you to that place. You understand what I'm saying? So like, okay, I've never met Marshall Montano, but I just bounced up Marshall Montano at a party. That's coincidence. Because we thought he would never been there. But the point of the matter is that I got ready, I bathed, I put on clothes, I say I was going to this particular party. So the event, the steps that lead up to the event made me meet Marshall Montano. So to Carl Jung, that was like, that's not a coincidence because you took the steps in order to reach there. And you met the person you didn't thought you were going to meet. So the thing about it is that I could believe that, not such as coincidence, just...
And to me, what that encourages, it encourages a mindset of mindfulness. Not exactly wild leather. It's not exactly that the universe decided as if it's out of your control. It's you decided to plant a corn tree, so it's not a coincidence that corn grows. To some extent. And regardless of whether you decide to do it or not, a result is going to come of it. So I wouldn't say it as the universe decided. I don't think so. But what that encourages to me is a mindset of mindfulness. Because if it is that basically all coincidences, to some extent, could be fueled to happen more positively for me, then an idea could be put forward, a theory could be put forward that if I make as many correct decisions as possible, I am going to get as many positive coincidences as possible. So I should have a mindset that I should always be conscious of what I'm doing to aim my doings along a direction that is going to lead to the most possible positives following my way. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. What do you think about time and the passage of time? Time is inevitable to people that die. We are a time constrained species, so it is what it is. Time is a measure of incidents happening, a measure of reactions passing. To something that doesn't die or doesn't live, time is inconsequential, but we do, so there is consequence to it. That's my thought.
You know what's funny, Nathan, as you bring up that I spoke to an American about this, man, and this is why I think conspiracy theories today are so low tunes level of nonsense, like Coyote out there with his Acme products trying to catch Roadrunner, sorry. Having an American tell me that time isn't a real thing, it's just a made-up concept, and not knowing that, time is just a measurement of the events that happen, right? It's like, now I realize Americans are very susceptible to such conspiracy theories, and that kind of irks me because, and I mean, I understand because, they're distrustful of their government and what the media puts out, and that's fine, but to think that you could go down a different medium to try to get information, but the information the path that you go down, the type of media that you go down is not even better than the one you have been consuming for all your life. Is just crazy because you're not going to watch me and tell me just because I could tell you the time is 11:35 in the night that doesn't exist. That's crazy talk to me.
Yep. Rooney, go after. And say a strange thing.
Okay, I don't know if probably I, in my mind, like, have this weird thing. Or if it happens to everybody, right? Like, when you're walking down the road and you see somebody, you don't know the person, just see them. Like, in my mind, that person, like, when they leave, when I no longer see them, like, in my sight, does that person, like, still move? Like, do they still, like, are they still
There's a name for that. And children, there's an age where children are at where they don't understand that. That's why peekaboo is such an interesting game for children. They don't understand that when people leave their presence, they still exist. But there's a name for that, and I mean, there's a side of philosophy where they go into a lot of that, where, like Schrodinger's cat, I don't know if you ever heard about that. The idea that if a cat dies in a box without people knowing it, the cat is both alive and dead inside the box until you open the box. The cat exists in both possibilities, as it were. You don't know. If a tree falls in the forest, does it really fall? If no one is there to witness it falling, does it really fall? That's like that same kind of thinking. The reality is, yes, and even more so when you're talking about people. Like, I could understand, especially when you're talking inanimate objects, if it's possible for an inanimate object to do something without an audience is actually a question to be asked. Here's a theory. Here's an instance to listen to that makes you wonder about some things. the stars you see in the sky, right? You're seeing light from very far away suns and universes, and some of them are planets, etc. But most of them are suns. Some of them are so far away that it takes thousands upon thousands of years for the light to travel from that sun to the earth. Now here's the thing. You are seeing that light because a photon particle that left that sun is hitting your retina. A particle, an actual something, shot off of that sun at an insane speed. Theories state it's the speed limit of the universe. And it came straight to your eye. And you saw that. Now, here's the question. If this left that sun 300,000 years ago, that photon particle could have only left that sun 300,000 years ago if your eye was there to receive it 300,000 years in the future. If your eyes were not there to receive that photon particle, would it have even left? And these are theoretical questions they ask in physics, etc. So if there is no audience there, if there's no audience to something that's inanimate especially, does it even exist? And then you could get into the wonder of, is it that indeed this universe and everything else there, everything else here, is indeed created and fashioned only for the benefit of the observers? If there were no observers, then the universe would be inconsequential.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? I think. But I think a lot of, I have a real serious issue whereby visually I take things in too much, right? I don't know if I would have said that. Like when I watch movies, I internalize a lot now visually, which is why I don't really watch TV as much. But like when I was growing up, I remember this literally. I don't know these people. I never see them before and I never see them after, right? But I remember I was on a suit and this man and this woman getting this big fight. Like the man was like cuffing her in her face or whatever. And in my mind, one thing I could be like, okay, when I leave here, he is not hitting that woman again because like they stop. Like this doesn't exist to me anymore. And that's just kinda, I think psychologically, I am not like Rihanna did it.
Okay.
So, I think I've come to that conclusion. I live in the future in my mind because the present is really not there for me. So I live in the future and then you realize the future comes and you just wasted your whole life living in the future and it didn't even work you wanted. So
Well, that's insane. That's insane.
That's insane, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just something I was dealing with. And it had a point in time I had to be like, Renita, you need to stop doing this. You need to live presently. So that was like 3 years ago. So I started living presently. I was in most depressing time of my life because obviously I wasn't dealing with anything, right? I was living in the future. So stop and have to
Deal with everything.
Present and deal with everything happening. The problems that I was dealing with currently. And then when I stopped and I had to deal with it, I was like, if you had done this, if you had dealt with it like 3 years ago, it wouldn't have got this bad. Like when you started imagining yourself 3 years in the future and it would have been done, and then you didn't do anything. So 3 years passed and you didn't do anything.
Yep.
So I was just like, no, I need to stop.
And
so I have
Go ahead, go ahead.
in my that's just something I've been in my mind about. I really trying right now to, you know, not be so. What would that would? I don't even.
That's a fantasy. You're living in a fantasy.
Well, I lived in. I guess yeah, because the teacher would have been.
That is what it is. It's not even a goal. It's not even a mission because you're not working towards it. It's literally a fantasy. Somebody will say, Aesop said time travel. You know, on that same note with the light, here's an idea. If we could put like a massive mirror somewhere a distance away and point a telescope at that mirror to look back at the earth, would we be seeing the earth in past tense? Because the light, remember what we see is light. We see light. In order to see, the light has to travel from the object to our eyes. Remember that. So it takes time for that to happen. It's going to take time for light to travel from an object to wherever we place the mirror back to the telescope that we're looking at the mirror with. Is it possible to telescope into a mirror far away and look at the past? I wondered about that because, like, with the time travel talk, I don't see how time travel is real. I don't see how you bodily move to another time period. I don't see how that's happening. Physics, no way. Math, no way. I just don't see it. I could see you looking at it. Theoretically. Maybe we need some massive mirrors, plant some massive mirrors out on Pluto, get a very powerful telescope and look at them and look into the past. The answer is I honestly feel time and space doesn't even operate like it does on Earth. Well, as we said when this conversation came up, time is just a measure of passing reactions, and reactions pass wherever they are. So I think it does move in time as it moves on Earth because it's the same thing. It's the same universe with reactions occurring. That's all there is to it. So, I mean, now, I don't know if it is that you're saying some reactions may occur faster or slower depending on where they happen. That is true. Fact. All right, people, it's 11:45, quarter to 12. Let me see. Trini Hotep, Ronnie, there's somebody called Cell Labelle. You'll get a closing statement. I hope it's not a crazy person. You'll get a, do you think the firmament is real? It's according to what you mean by firmament. Is astral projection just a theory according to what they mean by astral projection? Do they mean a literal alternate plane where you can leave your body and go to that alternate plane and meet other people? I somehow don't believe it's like that occurs. No. When you say the firmament, what exactly do you mean? What do you mean? What does the firmament mean to you? Because I recognize the firmament means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And that's a kind of varying meaning. So, when you say that, what do you mean? A dome? Well, no, I don't believe a dome is covering the earth like that. No. If when you say the firmament, you just mean the atmosphere, the heavens, the skies, well, yes, that is what the firmament is. There is something up there between us and space. I believe that. We have atmosphere. It's been a while since I went through that. The troposphere, the disosphere, the lithosphere, there are layers to it, and yes, there's an atmosphere there. If you're considering the atmosphere as the firmament, then yes, there's a firmament in that sense. Yes. Anyway, let me hear your closing statement. Cell Labelle, you were there? Wanted to say something? I guess not. Cassie says, first time view and very interested in your content. Curious as to your background. My background as my literal background or my background as in personal. I'm a teacher. I am a teacher. I teach varying subjects. I've been teaching for a while. I teach privately. This has all been brought to you by Mindful Education, Mindful_education. If you're looking for us on Instagram, you can sign up with us. It's the educational institution that I run. We teach, we give learning pods. Learning pods are small, personalized, homeschool geared style of teaching where the aim is that the class is no bigger than 6 students. You get familiar with your tutors, with your teachers, along with your fellow students, so you have that familiarity that brings the comfort, and it allows for a lot faster pace in the teaching, a lot more ease in learning. That's the idea. Also, we offer private tuition, one-on-one classes, most CXC and CAPE subjects. If you're interested in that, just hit us up. That's kind of my background. Other than that, I talk, and I mean, well, I'm in construction too. I do contracting, so if you have something to build, nothing too small, nothing too large. We also do HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. If things are too warm, we'll get that to you. I also do some farming. I'm a farmer. I figure I'll be the modern Renaissance man. You have to figure out how to do all of these things, a wide array of things. Is the link in the description for the teaching? No, not in this description, but it's on Instagram, Mindful Education. But you could, if you're interested, you could message me anywhere you see me, and it is me. I do respond, and I'll get to you. All right, people. Anything to close with their Trini Hotep or Roni's World?
I just wanted to say it was lovely tonight. YouTube gets no love.
What you talking about? I just read the YouTube. I saw you over on YouTube, Ronnie. Don't try it, Ronnie. Don't try that.
No, that's when I come back over here. I have free YouTube, so that's why I just use YouTube when I'm out. Yeah, it was nice. You guys, it's always good. Happy to get off my chest. It was eating my life. No, it was mental. Anyway, enjoy all my eats.
You too.
Yeah, man. Be mindful, not mindless. You dig? Knowledge is power, and we are here to share power. That's just how it works. Knowledge is the base of human existence.
I like that one.
And as we know, humans generally do share knowledge amongst each other, which is fascinating to see. So we do share that aspect of power. That's just the truth. Other styles of power, maybe not, but we do share knowledge. So yeah, we're here to share that power. We're here to share that knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? So we out, man.
We out. Good night, people. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be here again tomorrow, 9 to 9:30 p.m. somewhere thereabouts. Be sure to tune in. Laters. Peace out. Hold it down.